Good evening from Swansea, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling, insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. And listen, coming into today, there is a huge headline, and that headline is The Rock is back. He returned once again last night on WWE Raw. His first Raw appearance, and I don't know how long, of course, after his SmackDown appearance late last year. But the big headline is that he made a reference to the tribal chief, the head of the table, Roman Reigns, and we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about all of last night's episode of Raw today. It's going to be a super fun show, and I'm excited for it. And I'm excited for it not just because we got so many, fun things to talk about, but also because we have such a great panel here with us. And let's kick things off with a man who reviewed last night's episode of Raw for Wrestling Republic, Coby Galenzoski. How are you today, Coby?
Doing pretty good. It definitely feels weird to be here on a Tuesday, and it's not Clark hosting. Anyway, I'm here. It's a new year. Happy New Year to those who haven't heard it from me yet. I'm here. Haven't been on the show since last year. Ha ha. Anyway, I'm here. Of course, we have The Rock appearing on day one. It's interesting. I'm ready to talk about it. It's a hot topic, and I'm here. I'm ready to enjoy talking with my crew.
Absolutely, it's going to be a fun one, that is for sure. But also joining us, it's the guy who hates everything WWE related. Well, according to our comment section, the AEW reviewer David Sheldon. David, how are you today?
I just said Sammy turning on Roman was the best moment of the year. That was 2 days ago. Give me a chance, lads.
The Hello, Instagram everybody. Comments don't look at that.
That was last year.
Hello, everybody. I'm really excited to be here to talk about day one. Happy New Year to you all. Hope you all had a wonderful New Year's break. I'm going to be a bit of a Grinch this week because I thought Raw this week was broadly fine. Some very bad, some stuff that I thought was quite bad, some stuff that I thought was very good. I'm excited to talk about all of those things. It's an interesting show, a very packed show, a fun show to start the year, definitely, and a great company to discuss it with.
Absolutely. No, it's great to have you here, David. It's going to be a fun show. And last but certainly not least, we have Bret Sternberg. Bret, how are you today?
Everything's doing amazing over here down in Florida. It's nice, warm. I know everyone's dealing with some cold weather up there. I know you all heard Happy New Year from me yesterday, but Happy New Year again. I hope you're all getting to it. It's Tuesday. Let's get into it. I'm ready to review Raw, especially with The Rock.
No, it absolutely was certainly, a fun one last night. And we got a comment here from Bobby Petito. Shout out to you, Bobby, who's, of course, breaking the news in the comments about the news which broke, a bit earlier today, saying that Xia Brookside will be wrestling at TNA's Hard to Kill event in the Knockouts Ultimate X match on January 13th. I'm excited for that, of course, the return of TNA wrestling. We're going to be talking about that a lot in the next few weeks. I'm absolutely certain about that. But right now what we're going to talk about is The Rock, because of course last night on Raw he returned, and everybody's all up on arms on Twitter today. They're absolutely furious about it. They're saying, I can't believe we're doing Rock Reigns at Mania once again. Well, we don't know that yet, but yeah, if we're putting one and one together, that's probably, the outcome which we're going to get to. But here's the thing. I don't have an issue with it. And I tweeted it today, and I'll say it again here right now. I, for the longest time, haven't believed for a second that Roman Reigns is losing those championships until after the new TV deals kick in. Until next October, when they change networks. Likely both Raw and SmackDown will change networks. We know SmackDown will. But yeah, I really just cannot see Roman Reigns dropping it before then. So, with that in mind, this WrestleMania, whoever he faces, he will beat. And I still want Cody to be the guy to finish that story. And for that reason, I'm delighted that he's not facing Reigns at Mania. I do think that, Rock Reigns, it's a big money match. A huge, huge money match, right? And I know a lot of the hardcore wrestling fan base are complaining, but guess what? You're going to watch it anyway. But because The Rock's involved, a lot more people will watch it anyway as well. So, listen, I understand frustrations. I understand people getting a bit bored of this Roman Reigns reign. And I agree, right? He's not been on TV much lately. And when he has, this bloodline stuff, it's felt stale at times. I completely understand that. I second it. But I think there are still stories you can tell with Roman Reigns. I've listed them multiple times now. I mean, you still got AJ Styles, which I think could be a huge feud. You could still run back that Seth Rollins storyline. You still got Jim Uso, Solo Sikoa, and that's just to name a few, right? Obviously the Big Rock one as well. So listen, I don't think they need to be in a rush to end this reign, but what I think they do need to do is, tell more stories and have Roman be on TV a little bit more, right? Because again, him appearing now and again, it works. It works for his character, and it works in terms of ratings as well. People complain about it a lot, but the reality is they then tune in when he's not. Most people who are complaining are tuning in when he's not there anyway, and then even more people are tuning in when he is there. So it's working, and I don't think they'd have that same effect if he was there each and every single week. But Coby, I mean, how are you feeling about this situation? How are you feeling with, presumably it being at this year's WrestleMania, The Rock versus Roman Reigns?
I gotta say, you 100% broke me when you said that you're gonna watch it anyway.
Yeah, they will.
I was laughing. I was laughing very heavily with that. But I see. This is the thing: is I don't want to say I was right or I was wrong or anything, but I've been saying it for 6 months. Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns isn't a WrestleMania 40 main event. I've been saying that. I called it a milestone main event. Obviously, it's a milestone mania main event. It's a term that's made up, but it makes sense. WrestleMania 40 is historic. A historic match is Rock and Roman Reigns. The other thing that, for the people who are suggesting the Rock and Roman Reigns at the Elimination Chamber and Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. The Tribal Chief character has had this build for so long, it's so enrooted. If Roman Reigns beats The Rock, which he probably is going to, we're not going to sit there and say The Rock has a chance, but that is the climax of the story. We don't need 6 weeks of falling action just to end that story. The story. It's the biggest story since Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. This is a story that needs its justice and can't just be rushed. Yes, Cody deserves to finish his story, but it shouldn't come a month after this match. At the end of the day, WrestleMania 40 main evented by The Rock and Roman. It's a historic match. The mainstream attention's there. What's more important to WWE? The IWC complaints or the business they make? It's the business. It's the money they're going to make from this match. It's a milestone main event. It's historic. It's what they need to have a massive WrestleMania 40. But like I said, like Ben said, I agree with the criticism surrounding the bloodline. I agree it can get sour. It's been stale. It can be stale. I agree. Cody might not. I don't want to say Cody would fall off, but Cody might not be as hot in 10 months. We don't know necessarily, but it is not the time if you're doing The Rock and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you there. And I mean, you're saying he might not be as hot then. Well, I mean, it's their job to make sure he does stay as hot, right? And if he can't stay as hot, well, then that maybe says something about, him whether or not he should be the top guy. But just for clarity, I do believe he will still be hot because I mean, everything he does, he's been, very, very good with since he's returned to WWE. But they just need to find, somebody for him potentially at WrestleMania, which we'll get onto a bit later on, right? We'll talk about that later in the show. But, I mean, David, what about you? Because obviously you've been a critic at times about this Bloodline story. You said it yourself. You loved it before. You loved the Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns stuff. But since then, well, it's kind of been a downhill, spiral for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it has been a downward spiral, and this doesn't do a lot to rectify it. I'll be honest. I look, before I talk about Roman, can I just talk about this segment?
Go for it.
Because I really didn't like this segment. 21 and a half minutes this segment went for a joke that lasted about 30 seconds of Jinder, which was very funny. The Jinder stuff was really funny for a bit. And then he just kept going and going and going. And then The Rock came out, which was lovely. And then he kept going and going and going. It went, oh my, I felt like I was losing brain cells by the end. I mean, by the time we got to Roman going, doing his two sides of the thing, it just ground the show to a halt. And I like The Rock, and he had some funny lines. The Rock is the greatest talker to ever step in a ring. He's going to have some funny lines. Did it need 21 minutes of my life? No. To get to a fun, slightly convoluted line with the whole "where will The Rock go to eat after this?" But it was a fun line to get to where it needs to be. It's silly, but it is fun. I could have done without it going that long because I was so bored. But Roman and Rock, I just don't know how much I want to see Roman versus Rock in the ring. I really want to see the promos. I really want to see the hype and the pomp and the circumstance. I think the match will be fun. It's something I have wanted in terms of the story, but I think it's probably I'm just burned and I'm a bit sick of it all now. And like I just want Roman to lose the title, and I've said this for about a year that I'm kind of fed up. I want them to hook me again, and they haven't hooked me again. Maybe Roman Rock can be a fun story. It's just I think it'll be the most predictable match in main event match in Mania history. Because nobody on this earth believes The Rock is going to end Roman Reigns' title reign. Because he hasn't had a match in 11 years. And the last time he had a match, he injured himself 5 minutes in and was completely gassed. So
I do want to just make a quick point though, remember. WrestleMania, the vast majority of the audience is super casual. They know The Rock from being The Rock. So it's possible that they do. None of the internet wrestling community do, I agree. But some of the, super just WrestleMania watchers, maybe SummerSlam too, they might.
Well, yeah, but, you could say that with anybody. You could say, if Hulk Hogan came back tomorrow and they did Hulk Hogan versus Gunther for the IC title, I still wouldn't want to see that either. Even though nobody buys Hogan's going to win the IC title back. It's just... That was just a random weird example. But I want to see it. I do want to see it, I think. I'd rather see Roman and Cody too and get it over with at Mania. Otherwise, we drag it out longer and longer and longer. But you know what? It's one reference in one promo from The Rock. They've got time here if this is the story they want to tell, which I think they'd be silly not to reference it and not do it. So I will let them tell a story. And I will let them do a build for whatever they want to build. But right now, I'm just a little bit concerned.
Yeah. No, I mean, that is, a very, very fair point. And it's a point which, a lot of people have been making, too. Because if The Rock, it kind of depends on how much The Rock can show up too, right? Because they got to build this feud. And to build a feud, you've got to be there, because I had issues last year. I think we all had issues last year with the feud between Cody and Roman Reigns. I know they were focusing on finishing a story rather than actually telling one. And because of that, the story it wasn't amazing going in, if we're being brutally honest about it. And part of that was because Roman Reigns, well, he just wasn't showing up, was he? And now this year, if you have Roman Reigns and The Rock both not showing up to tell the story, well, what are you meant to do? So I understand the complaints, I do. They've got to do it right if they're going to do it.
God bless Paul Heyman. He'd have to work double duty if he came promos on himself to try. Remember when they did Bray Wyatt versus The Undertaker, and The Undertaker was never there, so didn't show up at all. So Bray was cutting promos on himself every week for 3 months. It could be even worse. It could just be Paul cutting on both sides.
Oh, don't give them ideas, David. Don't give them ideas. But what about you, Brett? How did you feel about this? How are you feeling about The Rock, Dwayne The Rock, being back and the match at Mania?
So I don't know if you guys remember this, but I called this kind of a while ago, The Rock coming back, and kind of finished.
You also, I want to make this clear because we had this debate at the time.
I'm going to rectify that because I called him in the Rumble, and I take that back now because now he doesn't. I'm sorry.
You also called him winning the title too. Both
did.
of those things.
All right. I got a little excited. I love The Rock. I'm sorry. But I've just got to say this. We in WWE have not really had long-term storytelling for a while. And this is a perfect example of it. And even before The Rock was even in the picture making his return when he did a few months ago, this story puts The Rock, like, I believe that The Rock is the head of the table. And now Roman needs to kind of prove, in a sense, to the fan base that, okay, am I better than The Rock? I mean, this is The Rock passing the torch down to him, in a sense. The Cody thing does not have to happen this year. It does not whatsoever. And The Rock doesn't even need to win Royal Rumble to go ahead and face Roman at WrestleMania. This could be a whole, yes, as David said, it's going to be very exhausting for us to wait and like for The Rock or Roman to make the first punch, or in the sense when it comes to promos. But I don't believe that it's going to be something that's going to damage viewership on WrestleMania whatsoever. I think it's going to amplify it. And I think that in time, if they do this the right way, they can go ahead and tell the Cody story. Like, it doesn't have to happen this year. It could happen at 41. This is what this business is about, especially if you want to keep people stimulated on certain stories. You don't have to stop a story right when people are heated about it or so focused on it. You can go ahead and tell it and then let it last and come back to it. Because especially someone like Cody, I can see him facing a Punk, or obviously we have Punk and Rollins probably at Mania, but I think that The Rock is going to pass the torch to Roman, like, ultimately at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, what a moment that will be too, and I do agree with you. I really do. I mean, I've been going on all day. Do it at Survivor Series next year. I mean, maybe, well, the way that I do it, I said it on Twitter earlier and I said it again now, I'd have Roman Reigns lose the title to Cody Rhodes at Survivor Series 2024. 2 months into their new set of TV deals, right? So Roman Reigns is there in a big profile feud for the first 2 months of those new TV deals to, really establish, the show on those two brands. And then, of course, afterwards, then at Survivor Series, a couple of months later, then have Cody Rhodes win. Win the championship, and then people will be like, well, what are they going to do at Mania? Well, then at WrestleMania 41, which would be 4 or 5 months after Survivor Series, that's when I then do the rematch, Cody versus Reigns 3, with Cody being the champion this time, and then Cody beating Reigns once again, really, making him seem like the star of the promotion. He didn't just do it once, he beat him twice in a row, and I think they'd be putting Cody over in a big way then. He'd have proven himself, he's got another 9 months to prove himself as well. And yeah, so that's how I do it personally. But I mean, Soul, on the other hand, is saying he'd rather watch AEW Best of Dark Volume 1 than Rock versus Roman at Mania.
That's ridiculous.
And you're the one person that'll say that.
That's ridiculous. The viewership for The Rock and Roman versus Rock and Cody is going to be astronomical. I really feel like there's going to be a huge difference when it comes to a Mania main event when it comes to Rock Roman rather than Cody Roman right now.
Undoubtedly. I mean, I think that's a no-brainer. I mean, whatever The Rock's involved with, it's views. Like when he returned earlier this year, I mean, that was he returned to do nothing, and it's not like he's been away for a few years, but my point, it's not like a CM Punk where you never thought he'd return. We knew The Rock was going to return at some point, and that's their second most viewed video in history, only slightly behind CM Punk's, and that's just a random return from The Rock, essentially, right, to say absolutely nothing of substance. Earlier this year.
Can I just say, it will be so funny if Punk comes back to WWE for the first time in a decade and immediately has his WrestleMania main event taken again by The Rock. That would be the only thing that would actually make me laugh. Would be Punk felt so aggrieved 10 years ago that that Cena and Rock got the main event spot. It'd be so funny if he comes back and if it's a Rock and Roman, just the Rock forever cursing CM Punk.
Well, I mean, listen, we saw this past Saturday at AEW World's End that karma is a very real thing when that sociopath Adam Copeland, after sickeningly stealing that championship of Christian Cage, while karma bit him in the word I cannot say on this show, as Killswitch decided to assist Christian Cage in winning it back. So karma's a very real thing, guys. So maybe you're right, David. Maybe you're right indeed. But now let's move on and let's talk about something Raw related, which isn't Rock related. It isn't Roman Reigns related, but it is related to somebody who is related to The Rock, and that is Nia Jax, because Nia Jax took on Becky Lynch last night on Monday Night Raw, and I think a lot of people, including myself, expected this to be quite a simple one. I think we all expected Becky Lynch to get the victory and then for everybody to move on with their lives, but no, this match, Nia Jax won. She got a shocking victory in what I thought was quite a decent match, to be honest with you. I thought it was a strong opener to the show. The crowd was very invested. The card placement I thought was definitely right for it. I really, really did. But yeah, Nia Jax got the victory, and the match was built around, Nia Jax trying to punch Becky Lynch dodging the punches. And in the end, Becky came off the top rope and into the fist of Nia Jax. And there's a lot of questions online today about whether or not this punch was real or not. And I've watched it, I've evaluated it quite a few times, and I can't tell. But in fairness, right, if it did connect, this is not really Nia Jax's fault. Because in general, you're not meant to do a punching spot when somebody's jumping off the top rope. You're not, because it's like impossible to sell while you're also like falling unless you actually really hit them. Like, it's such a hard spot to pull off. So if there is like connection made, it's not really the fault of Nia Jax. I thought she looked fine in this match. But yeah, I mean, Coby, what did you think about this one?
I think this was very well done, and I've raved about what they've done in the last few weeks regarding Becky Lynch and Nia Jax, because Nia was holding her own in a promo battle with Becky Lynch, one of the better talkers in the company right now. To me, this is really good, because we all wanted Becky to win. We all thought Becky was going to win, and we aren't. Now, this is back to what the character is built on. Becky Lynch's character of being the man was entirely enrooted and built off of being the one to overcome people and overcome the challenges. She overcome being taken out of the main event of WrestleMania. I can make it a list. I can list them all over again. This is now a new challenge for Becky Lynch to overcome. And this is a lot better than doing nothing until WrestleMania for Rhea versus Becky. I obviously I don't know when something's going to happen, but I assume she'll get the win back eventually. Maybe in the chamber, maybe if it's a Raw chamber for the winner to goes to Rhea Ripley, you can do final two, Becky and Nia. Becky gets the win, and there you go. It's a new storyline that isn't just we have to do something to get Becky to WrestleMania. This is a story that also is going to give her more heat, more juice, and build her back up to eventually feud with Rhea Ripley.
No, I mean, I do agree with you. It's nice that they're giving both of these, two women something to do. And I also agree with Bobby Petito's here. Nia Jax is growing on me. I mean, listen. There's no denying that, early on in her career, maybe, a few things needed polishing, right? I don't think anybody can deny that. But, I mean, since she's come back, I thought she looked good. Like, it's not like she's definitely overhated, because there have been wrestlers who have botched historically as much as her and gotten away with it a bit more, right? And I'm not excusing her botches there. I'm not making excuses. But since she's come back, she's looked good. She really, really has. I mean, obviously, she had that promo a couple of weeks ago, which wasn't great. But in ring, I thought this match went very, very well. I thought it told a good story. And the fact that we couldn't tell if the punch was real or not. I mean, listen. If that punch was fake, if that punch did not connect, I mean, I'm clapping my hands to Nia Jax and Becky Lynch. Because, again, like, it's such a hard spot to pull off without it either looking awful or actually hitting. But let's now move on, and let's move on to talk about the nightmare after Christmas. Because Cody Rhodes came out on Monday Night Raw last night and said, Shinsuke Nakamura, I want you tonight. I don't want this to carry on anymore. I'm bored of it. I want to wrestle you. And Shinsuke Nakamura said, not tonight, next week instead. And then blew mist into with the camera. Quite a cool spot. But nothing really came of this segment. But I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was. I'm excited for the match next week. I really, really am. But listen, if they're not doing Cody versus Reigns at Mania, then what are they building Cody up to at Mania? I mean, David, do you have any theories on that? And also just this segment in general?
I'll start the segment. While I think of what Cody's next step is if he doesn't face Roman, because I haven't really given it any thought. It's actually a very interesting thought. I thought this segment was fine. I agree with Cody. I'm bored of this. I'm bored of this feud now. And I'm a bit bored of Nakamura as well, I'll be honest. Not that I don't dislike him by any means. I just don't really buy it. And I don't know why, because I did buy it. But I think it's just that he lost the feud to Seth. Then he the feud with Cody to me hasn't done a 10. I wasn't a massive fan of the Nightmare Before Christmas thing that he did. Before, it wasn't bad. It was just a couple of very weird rhymes in there. Yeah, I thought that the spitting on the camera looked naff. And I don't really know, like, it just didn't really work for me. It looked like a pane of glass that he'd spat into in front of it. It just, yeah, the whole thing was kind of filler to me. Got us to next week. I'm excited enough to see the match. Cody will get his win back, I'm sure. But yeah, it's all kind of, it was all just a bit okay for me. Nothing particularly grand. As for Cody's next step, oh, that's tricky. He's wrestled everyone. That's the problem. Gunther, no. I'd love the match, but again, I don't think we buy that Cody's going to take the IC title off Gunther if he's got bigger ambitions. Honestly, I'm going to be completely honest with you here. I haven't got a clue. I really don't know. And there's a few people it could be, but I'm like blanking on them, because anyone who I can think of that makes logical storyline sense, he's already wrestled, aka the Judgment Day, for so many months. But I really don't know. I don't know. Jinder Mahal. There we go. He came back on this show, build him up, mega push. Cody Rhodes and Jinder.
Well,
don't hinder
you
Jinder.
Reminded me, David, actually, something I meant to say earlier. Jinder Mahal's performance last night, very, very good. Highly underrated performer. Put some credit on his name, everybody. But in terms of who he should face...
I've got an answer.
Okay. Go for it.
I'm only saying it because I forgot that I've been peddling it for months. Cody and Drew. That's which was the food I was peddling for ages, because they're former tag team champions. Both had the same story. Both got released, went through the independents, came back, won the world title. Cody didn't, but that's what Cody wants. That's what Drew had. There's a really great story there to tell. I would have done it earlier, and I wouldn't have it at Mania because I still want Roman and Cody. But if they're not going to have Roman and Cody, I think Cody and Drew is a good Mania feud.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is actually a great shout. In fact, I'm going to be completely honest, David. I actually didn't even think about that when I was thinking about this. But now I'd be happy with that. But the other one I'd actually quite like to see is somebody who I've been pushing for quite a while now, and that is Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker versus Cody Rhodes. I want to see that. I want to see that match at WrestleMania because, I mean, listen, Cody can get a big win there, but he can also, bring Braun Breaker to that spotlight. If we're saying Cody's a big enough draw to be, world champion, then, have him help, elevate Braun Breaker, and then you can run it back wants Cody Rhodes as champion next year. Maybe that's next year's WrestleMania match. Well, I don't think it'll be. I think that'll be Cody Rhodes 3. But, I mean, listen, I think Bron Breakker is kind of just doing nothing in NXT now. He's just waiting to, kind of get called up. And I think Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania is a big way to, bring him up and have him on that, world stage. And I think he should lose the match. I 100% think that, Cody should win it. But I think that's, a very strong name that, you could put out there against Cody Rhodes. And that's what I would, like to see personally. That's what I am pushing for. I mean, Bobby Petito is saying the same as you. Cody Rhodes, McIntyre, or LA Knight. Well, of course, LA Knight's on SmackDown, but then again, they haven't cared about the brand split before.
LA and Logan Paul, I think, will be the main event.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I'd like personally. We got Apollo Animation saying Cody has so many great storylines. It would be great, to see him push the newer stars. Absolutely, I do agree with that. Bron Breakker, Cody Rhodes, WrestleMania 40. Give it to me, and let's use that as proof that Cody is big enough of a draw to have a match on his own with, a non-established talent. If that gets a lot of, I mean, it's hard to tell, on pay-per-views what's drawing the crowds, but if that gets a good social media rating, then there's your proof. There's your proof that he can be a world heavyweight champion. But now let's move on to talk about another match in the women's division, and that match was Rhea Ripley defending her World Women's Championship against Ivy Nile last night. And I mean, this match, for what it was good. It wasn't anything, overly special, but it was another good defense for Rhea Ripley. And of course, Rhea hasn't had that many top storylines this year. It's something, last year. It's not something, it's something which we complained over and over and over again about. Rhea Ripley's booking just hasn't been that great. Despite the fact that her character is so good and she's on TV so much, right? But in terms of her championship, I mean, she's usually on TV and it's got nothing to do with her own championship. But anyway, that's not related to this segment directly. But listen, Ivy Nile, she had a great showing last night. It really established her as a competitor in this division. That is for sure. But come on, let's start telling some longer feuds with Rhea Ripley now. Not just, a couple of week one leading in an easy victory for Rhea Ripley. Because listen, nobody under the sun thought Rhea was losing last night. But what about you, Brett? What did you think about this Women's World Championship bout?
I thought it was another opportunity for Shawn Michaels and Triple H to show off someone who they're bringing up out of NXT, which is what they did with Zoe Starks in a sense. And they did it incredibly, but now they're doing it with Ivy Nile. And Ivy Nile, to me, reminds me a lot of Jazz back in like the late 90s, early 1000s. How she would come out all muscled up. She comes out with the chains on it. I love her look. Her package is amazing. I just think that they need, like you said, you hit it right on the head. They need to tell long-term storytelling with Rhea Ripley. It works. It's been proven in the past to work. I think that it needs to happen. But I'm not taking away anything from the wrestling match last night. It was a great match. She did do more in the ring than I thought she was going to do, because Rhea Ripley's obviously Rhea Ripley dominating everyone. But I do think that this is a good opportunity for Triple H and Shawn to showcase more female talent coming up from NXT, as well as like they did, like I said, with Zoe Starks, and now they have Ivy Nile. And I think that there's a lot that you could do with her. I just hope that they don't package her as just someone who doesn't speak much, because I haven't heard her speak much at all, obviously. So if we get good promos and we get a good package, I am happy and I'm all here for it. But I don't just want to see another cog in the machine get knocked over by Rhea Ripley. I want to see these stars getting built up, and I want to see them make it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, I completely get that, Brett. I mean, for you, what you're saying as well, you want her to become a star. And when she came out last night, admittedly, I'm a graphic designer, right? But her branding, that like just the Ivy Nile written in like just absolutely bland text, just like some really like it looked really like a really cheap typeface and all of this. Just her presentation looked awful. I said at the start I didn't see her as a threat. Well, that branding around her, that didn't do any help. they need to make us, care about her, and they need to start presenting her in maybe a bit more of an interesting way, because, okay, they've now shown to us she's a top competitor. Now tell us why we should care. Tell us a story before you try and finish one. But now let's move on, and let's move on to talk about the main event of the evening. A men's world championship match where Seth Rollins successfully defended against Drew McIntyre in what was, a fun main event match. I don't think that I enjoyed it as much as Coby did, which I'm sure we'll get into a bit later on, but I thought, it was a fun main event for this day one of Monday Night Raw. But the one thing that I don't want to say issue I had with this, but I'm just kind of sick of them doing this angle where the person, in this case Damian Priest, tries to cash in Money in the Bank and then they just get taken out by the challenger or somebody else. It happened tons last year. It's happening tons this year. I mean, just do it. Just do the cash in at this point. I'm ready for it now. I don't think Punk versus Rollins needs a championship. I think Balor versus Priest for the championship makes a lot of sense. That's what I do personally. And then maybe at SummerSlam, you could do Punk versus Roman Reigns for the other championship. I mean, that'll be an option there. But I don't know. I didn't like this quite as much as other people did. But how about you, Brett?
So I want to say I was at, I think it was the Raw after SummerSlam, maybe 3 years ago, when Braun Strowman was coming down with the Money in the Bank. And then the Shield, for the last time, came back and kind of broke him to pieces. And then that Money in the Bank was completely disappeared. I cannot tell you how disappointed I was as a fan to see the Money in the Bank briefcase underutilized. Because for the past, I don't know how many years, maybe 3 to 5, I feel like we've gotten more fails than successes. And I want to see that Money in the Bank briefcase really utilized for what it is, to win the title. And I feel like it's just been a tease, and whoever has it almost is cursed in a sense. So I just want them to win, and not necessarily Damian Priest this year maybe, but going forward, I just want to see the Money in the Bank briefcase utilized for winning, and for doing it smartly too. Because I feel like these people just come down when, yes, the match last night was amazing. I didn't even touch on that yet. The match was amazing. And yeah, whenever the champion is down, okay, Money in the Bank winner comes down the ramp. It's too predictable nowadays. I want to see more smart storytelling, and I want to see a successful cash-in. That's it.
No, I mean, exactly. And my other issue with it is that when you've got a faction like the Judgment Day, I mean, there's a lot of people in this faction. Why doesn't Damian Priest just go, I Finn, I JD, I Dom, I Rhea, even I R-Truth? How about you guys, you get together and you go and ambush this match in the ring, go and take these two men down. Then he comes down and just, cashes in and just picks up the pieces and gets the victory. I mean, why don't they do that? It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't whatsoever. He doesn't seem like a threat when he should be the biggest threat in a long, long while, because there's a faction behind him. But I mean, David, what did you think about this one? I mean, how did you feel about the match?
Well, I mean, I thought the match was really good fun. I agree with you, Ben. I didn't like it quite as much as Coby did. I really did enjoy it, though. And I must say it was a really good show for match finishes, in the sense of, and the particular bit that I'm referring to is, in this match, is Drew hitting the Claymore, covering, and Rollins' legs bending backwards and onto the ropes. I thought that was really clever, because I've seen many finishes where a foot's been slightly moved onto the ropes, but that was Drew's own folly. Kind of his anger got the better of him slightly. Claymore didn't see his positioning and rolled him back. No movement from Rollins, really, just the way the leg was hooked onto the rope. That was really, really clever. And it cost him the end of the match. Yeah, lots of great counters, lots of good wrestling. That pedigree on the table, like, it really hurt. Just no give at all, just crack. Yeah, it's not as good as the other matches that I've seen them have, not as good as their pay-per-view matches, but you don't expect that. It's a TV main event. It's not a pay-per-view match. So I'm willing to be, that's fine by me. the cash-in was a bit weak. The cash-in was a bit weak. I mean, Damian Priest was standing up at the end of the show, kind of looking a bit angry. You know, he could have done it again. The problem you have with Money in the Bank in general is the whole gimmick as kind of the way that it's presented is a massive plot hole. Because you mentioned there about, why don't you just get all of Judgment Day to go out and beat down Rollins? Why doesn't Damian Priest just hit Seth Rollins with a car or something? Or smash a cinder block over his head, or just pin him.
Well, that would be illegal.
Or pin him under a crate. And so much of wrestling isn't. It's just like the whole thing is like that's the problem in wrestling is like particularly at any time championship opportunities. Like, well, why do you just do it here or do it here or do it here? In this case, though, it's in the ring, and I do think that it was kind of I would have just had like if Drew was going to hit a Claymore, just keep Priest on the floor. Just get him, just have the Claymore kick, just put him out. Don't put the camera back on him. Because as soon as they put the camera back on Priest going, it's just like, well, why don't you just come back in and batter him? Like Drew's already lost. He's not going to care anymore. Just Drew's, gone. Just beat him up. And it is a convoluted narrative. But by the end of the show, I wasn't really all that bothered. Just because I did enjoy the match a lot, and I'm excited to see where Rollins goes now and where Drew goes, especially because I think Drew's story is more interesting than Rollins is right now. And I think Drew will enter the Rumble, and I think Drew might do a Shawn Michaels. I said, by which I mean like the Shawn Michaels against the Undertaker spot. I was going to give it to Cody, but that idea of lasting right till the end and then just not being able to do it. And, trying to redeem himself and failing and that carrying on his story. But yeah, really, really fun match. And I did enjoy it a lot for what it was.
No, I 100% do agree with you, on that one. I mean, Coby, I enjoyed this main event, but I think that you enjoyed it maybe a little bit more than I did. Because, of course, you rated it 4.75 stars on our system. I mean, walk us through. What did you like about this?
And so that's the thing is the quick thing to mention is the Money in the Bank is spent. Like, yes, we realize it's meant to win championships, whatever. It's entertainment. They have to tell a story with it. That's what they've been doing for the last 7 months since he won it. Regarding the match, I thought that added to it. I think we had really good storytelling because this is a different match than what they did at Crown Jewel. Because of the belt. We had more desperation from Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre needed to win this match. That's why he made the mistake. I think Seth Rollins is a heck of a seller. You're always going to get that. The psychology is great. You had great wrestling, great counters. The crowd is electric. The cash-in but the cash-in tease added to the match. I think everything in this match was done flawlessly. And I think I would say this is their best match, period. Because their Crown Jewel was, I wouldn't say slightly under, but I would say it was better than their Crown Jewel match. And it's also hard to compare it to the Money in the Bank match in the PC. It's harder to compare it to that one as well. But that's the thing. I believe it. It was their best match. Because it was intense, they had a different story. The crowd was electric. He had great psychology. Because Seth had to work his arm and was also working his back. A number of issues that are adding up through the title reign. I think it was done flawlessly. I think this is an easy TV match of the year candidate already this year.
Wow. Well, I mean, of course, that is a high rating that, you gave it there, and it was certainly a great end to a great episode of Raw. Very quickly, before we do end, Anthony Manzano says both, I'm going to be honest, I think there's a mistake on the other comment, but on this comment, he says, both Roman Reigns versus Rock and Punk versus Seth don't need titles. I mean, listen, I understand I agree to, a certain level, but at the end of the day, the main event of WrestleMania needs a championship on it, right? That's a no-brainer. It has to have a championship. And you're right, both of them don't need a championship to draw, but the main event of WrestleMania needs to be a championship match. Like, come on, let's be real about it there. So I would do it for Rock Dwayne, but I do agree. I don't think Punk versus Rollins needs one. Unless the plan isn't for a Punk Reigns. Maybe if they don't want to do that, then sure, make it for the World Championship. Why not? But thank you guys very much for watching today. If you're over on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It means the world to us. If you're on Instagram, please make sure to share this video. It really does help us out with you every single day. Same for people on Twitch. Same for people on Twitter. On all the platforms. If you're watching on Spotify, please leave us a cheeky 5 stars. It means the world to me. But thank you to Thank you to Coby. Thank you to Bret. And thank you to David for joining me on this one. It's been a great show. And we will see you guys tomorrow for the Dynamite preview. Peace and have a lovely evening. See you guys.